Okay, you guys. Oh, I am back again at 4 o'clock. I don't even know why I'm saying this because I should be like, you know what? I'm good. Because it should be up here a whole nother week. You don't need to know I'm back again at 4 o'clock because you didn't see the 3 o'clock and the 4 o'clock back to back like I'm doing. This is week 2, and I'm just as energetic as week 1. There we go. Wait, yes, and I just want you guys to know when I say welcome this time, I actually know which podcast. I'm not literally mentally running through and then rambling as I figure out which one we're doing. We are doing the writer's class. And I'm proud of me for knowing that because we have 4 of these bad boys. It's hard to keep track of which one I'm doing. But I love being cute on all 4. Anyway, I think that's enough about me because I'm a little tired today. So I'm gonna not even wait for me to do this whole little cutesy march into the next segment. No, I'm just going straight in. I wrote books. Yup, there you go. No segue needed. And I thought divorce was bad, and I thought being grown up was easy. If only I were me, a memoir in verse, Foreign Coffee, Widow's Web, and Widow's Debt. And if you're counting, y'all, and I mean if you're counting the fingertips because they are pale white and I haven't done them yet, you're counting, that's 6 whole books. So you can get those books wherever audiobooks are sold. And before I go into the whole thing about like the other 18, yep, that's about right. Then I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that these are lifestyle and yeah, I'm keeping that. These are literary life guides with pop poetry, and those 6 books are your audiobooks, so you can get those audiobooks wherever audiobooks are sold. Ha! Ha! Got it together, head on straight. Good to go. You can find out the rest of the 18 books at www.andithoughladies.com. And while you, oh, nope, I was about to put the ending at the beginning. No, 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 no. This is what happens in the 4 o'clock hour. You got to always catch me in 3. Done. I am done that whole beginning. And before I mess up anything else, you're not here to hear about me. You're here to hear about our wonderful guest. Wonderful guest, would you like to introduce yourself? See, couldn't mess that up. Just handed it off.
You did great. I love it. Hi, everyone. Thank you for watching. Hi, audience. My name is Audrey Lee. I am the author of a debut novel coming out in August called The Mechanics of Memory. If you can't see it here, you can see it behind me, and behind me, it's everywhere behind me. This is my first novel. I'm so excited. I'm a newbie. I'm learning a lot. 3 things about me. I am, when I'm not writing fiction, I'm an educational consultant. I am the mom to an 18-year-old who is off to college soon and is a competitive hip hop dancer. And so what I love doing is watching him. And my favorite thing to do is root for the Golden State Warriors while I'm drinking a dirty martini. That is 3 things about me.
Vodka or gin?
Say that again.
How do you like your martini?
I like them dirty, so I like them with the olive in it. Oh, vodka or gin? You said vodka.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I had them right because I was like, okay, martinis, and I'm like, for me, it's always vodka because I can't stand the taste of gin. I assume gin is wormwood.
I like gin, but I tried a martini with gin in it, and it was all wrong.
Sorry, right. I got a little too excited. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm a writer. The same thing.
It's kind of the same thing.
Okay. Now that I'm back and I backed up from, actually, I got to tell you, one of my favorite drinks in the whole world is a scotchka. It's just scotch and vodka, shaken in ice, and then you just pop it on out there, and voila. And
well, it's only 1 o'clock here for me. Okay. When I get to that 4 o'clock hour, I will check that out.
Yeah, it's only good cold, and you have to have an okay scotch. Don't get a good scotch because then you're just ruining it.
Okay.
All right, we're not here to talk about drink, and you see this face, like, yeah. We're here to talk about the mechanics of memory. So, For your first book, you chose a hard subject.
I did. It's got kind of a funny story about it. So I mean, first to kind of tell you a little about the book, it's a psychological thriller. It's full of twists and turns. It's about a woman named Hope Nakano who's institutionalized at a luxury detox treatment center, but she can't remember anything about her last year. And while she's in VR therapy there at Wilder, she gets a coded message about her past and then starts to unravel all the little parts of her life. And as she does that, then she starts to question everything she thought she knew. It's been compared to Black Mirror, Inception, Memento, Severance. And but my friend came up with my favorite description. I'm going to read it because I always get it wrong. Crazy, semi-rich Asian gone girl interrupted is what she called it.
Okay, yeah. I feel like that almost should be the name, but it would take way too much
It
to
wouldn't
market
fit
it.
on the.
So it's the Cry Girl? Cry Girl? Crig?
Yeah.
Criggy. Yeah, the movie's called Criggy. Oh my God.
Okay.
No way, you got everything that you needed.
All right.
Short marquee. Criggy is coming to theaters near you. Okay. Actually, it should be streaming services right now, right? Because I mean, who goes to the theater?
Yeah, I don't think they make many movies anymore for the theaters.
It's so upsetting. They only make 10 polls, which is funny because I can you're West Coast, so I can just discuss that with you, right? Joking. Be so prejudiced right here. West Coast movies, right? Anyway, so how did you for I really want to ask a different question. I want to be deep, but I really don't care about that deep question. So I'm gonna
Okay.
ask this one that I want to know about.
All right.
Did you write a psychological thriller because this is what you like to read, or did it just kind of come to you and you're like, oh my goodness, this is it?
I do like to read psychological thrillers, but before I started this book, I was more of like a sci-fi fantasy reader. And the original, like very first draft of this book was a little more fantasy, like it kind of had a little magic in it, or you weren't quite sure what was going on. But then, years later, all the iterations, it turned into straight. So it's not fantasy at all. But since I started writing this book, I have read so many psychological every single one. And I look at the covers on Barnes and Noble, Amazon. I'm like, thriller, 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 thriller. I really do enjoy them now even more than I did, but I like twists and turns. I like to be surprised. I like when I don't see something coming.
So like I know like because I loved thrillers and suspense, but mine was like geopolitical. So I was a huge Clancy fan when I was young. Get them giant books, and I was like, done in 2 days. Um, but so I just wanted to know for you, how did it work out when it was your turn to write the terms?
So that it's really hard because what I found to be the hardest part is that you have to leave clues along the way so that when the different reveals come up, your reader isn't surprised. I mean, they're surprised, but they saw it coming. And so it's a really delicate balance. Oh, sorry. Are you there? Well, Nona has froze on me.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Your face is frozen on my screen, so maybe it's me. Sorry, I just completely stuck up.
Yeah, I think it was me. It just froze, like for no good reason. And apparently my camera is off. Now it tells me
You are. Okay.
here. My internet connection is unstable. I'm unstable. What else?
Your internet connection as a metaphor for your life.
Oh let's not even get into that right now. As you just said that to a narcissist, I could take all day on that. Back to you.
Okay.
We're going back to the original question. It was like, because you're reading turns and twists and and thrillers is one thing, but right, a
whole nother thing, because there's a balance between, you don't want to give too much away so that the reader sees it coming before the end. You want to give just enough away so that then when they reach the end, they're satisfied, but they're like, oh yeah, I should have seen that coming. And that's really complicated, because when you're writing and you know what the end is, and you know what you're trying to keep people from realizing or remembering completely until they get to the end, it's hard to know, because I know what the ending is. But it's hard to know, did I say too much and now that's too obvious? And when they get to the end, they won't, it'll ruin it. So that's kind of the hardest part about writing these kinds of books, as I discovered.
Thank you. Can you see and hear me?
I can hear you.
Can't see me again. There we go. All righty. So, what the heck? Of course, today I chose live, right? So,
well, had to be that way.
Yeah, normally I'm like pre-record only, but today I said okay. So, my biggest thing, okay. How excited were you when you were writing and you knew the end, but you were like at that point where you're like, oh, this is gonna be a good one? Like, do you write faster or slower for that?
I wrote this one kind of all out of order. So I wrote, and I'm like a very orderly person, so it's weird that I did that, but I knew the beginning, I knew some parts in the end, and so I wrote the beginning, and then I wrote the end, and then I filled it all in the middle. And so I didn't quite get that thing, because I was like, oh yeah, this is the end. But I did kind of go many different directions. I didn't know who the villain was for a while. So there were a lot of things that were kind of evolved in the 5,000 iterations of this book that eventually ended up in a real book.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm still here. I just want to see my face. Because apparently my camera is like, no face today. This has never happened. But anyway, we're going to move on with this. I have the very simple question: pantser or plotter?
Oh, it's not that simple. I'm like a hardwired plotter for every part of my life. I'm all about like order and labeling and color coding. But for this one, it was like a wild pantsing situation. It just it was just all crazy. I started with this idea of this woman in this institution with no memory, and like it just went crazy from there. And I wrote myself into a ton of holes because I was pantsing. And then so I just finished the first draft of the sequel to this book that I'm still kind of polishing up, getting ready to send off to my agent. And that was like a lot more plotted. But the drawback of that was it was a little less fun to write because it was so plotted. Like I do think some of my creativity goes out the window when I'm too orderly.
I completely agree. I remember, so most books I start within a week, or and I finish them in 2 weeks. Like that's it. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
The first draft, and then I can start, doing the editing and stuff. But I did this one book where I plotted it, the entire thing from beginning to end. And then I was like, okay, I have room to go. Never wrote the book.
Yeah, because you lose a little something. And I think, and I kind of got tired of this whole world in book 2. And it's just been a long time with these folks in this world. And so I think for my next project, I will probably take a break from the mechanics and memory world and write something totally different.
I
Just to
definitely,
get like the creativity back.
I definitely understand. Yeah, there's something like someone asked me recently, are you gonna write a sequel to your romance book? And my romance book is this thick. And yeah, and it's supposed to be a 3-part series. And they're all this supposed to be that thick. And I looked at that and I was like, who wants to go back into that world? Why am I going back? I know I didn't finish it, but still,
I know.
I have no desire. I'm tired of seeing you people. You're uninvited from the party.
Yeah, I agree. I think your little personalities are becoming tiring. So
I became an author so I can uninvite the characters I
yeah,
hate.
yeah,
I can't do
exactly.
that in real life.
Exactly.
Okay. So I have to ask the thing that everyone wants to know is how did you get your literary agent?
Okay, that is a funny story. So, I finished the book. This was like just before COVID, shelter in place. I finished the book and I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? And so I'm Googling, what do I do now that I have a book? And I realized I needed to find an agent. So, and so then I had to learn how to write a query letter and a synopsis. And, I had written at the time, it was like over 100, it was nearly 130,000 words, my first draft. And I had written it, and it was so difficult to write the synopsis. I couldn't write the synopsis. I could write a 130,000 word book and I couldn't write a 2-page summary of that book. So, so I ended up going to a writing conference in San Francisco, and they had this horrible, soul crushing hellscape called speed dating. So,
San Francisco Writers Conference?
yeah.
How did you like it?
Well, I loved it. I've only been there once, but that it was the last, when I went was like a month before the world shut down. That was kind of the last like social thing I did was San Francisco Writers Conference. So I did the speed dating. I signed up for the speed dating. And it's basically, for those of you who don't know, it's terrible. You're in a room with all of these agents and you only have like 2-3 minutes, and you sit down at a table and you're like, hi, my book is about this. And they either say, they either tell you to send them your manuscript, or they like politely and some not so politely shoo you away. So it's just terrible. And I didn't want to go. And I have to say this because my best friend Sam went with me, and I was about to not go. And she was just like, put on your big girl panties and go in there and do thing. And I was like, okay. So I went. It was nerve-wracking. I'm like shaking, I can't even get my pitch out. And then I'm about to leave, and there's a woman sitting at a table. Her name's Dorian Maffei. And I sit down with her and I'm like, here's my pitch. And I tell her, and she holds up her hand and she goes, I have goosebumps. And then she says, send it to me. So I send it to her, and she read it, or the 50 pages or what, I don't remember. She asked for the whole thing. And she emailed me back and she said, it's not for me, but I think my boss would really like it. And so she sent it to her boss, who is Kimberly Cameron, who I didn't query because I was a brand new author. I had found the Kimberly Cameron agency and I liked that they were all women. I liked that they were in the Bay Area, which is unusual for an agency. And I had like her on my spreadsheet, but I was like, when you're a new author, you don't query the lady whose name is on the letterhead. And so I don't know. I didn't think that I should do that. But she sent it to Kimberly. Kimberly read it. Kimberly contacted me. She said, it's not quite ready, but I love your writing. Fix this, this, and this. And if you do fix those things, I'll read it again. And if you've done it, I'll represent you. So that was another like several months of fixing it. It was more time of back and forth with Kimberly. Meanwhile, COVID happened, and but then Kimberly called me and said, like, I'm not taking new clients, but I'll read it and I thank you for your patience and da da da. And then she called me after she read it and she said, okay, I'm going to take one more client.
That is amazing. Okay, first of all, I feel like it's a Cinderella story.
It feels like it because it's so much about like luck. I happened to be at the conference. I happened to talk to Dorian. Dorian happened to pass it to her boss. It's a lot of that.
So my next question for you is, if you can hear me still.
I can hear you.
What 3 pieces of advice would you give to any debut author that you're like, I wish I knew?
So a debut author who is like in my position, they're getting ready for their book to come out, or a debut author who's trying to like break into the business?
A debut author who's getting ready to sit down and write a psychological thriller. What 3 pieces of advice would you give them about the whole process, beginning to end? They just need to know something.
Well, so one I would say, Neil Gaiman has this great list of writing tips. It's like 8 of his writing tips. The first one is write. And I mean, that's the thing. It's so easy to get into your own way and not actually write. If you want to be a writer, you got to write. You got to make time to write. You have to write every day. And you have to read. I learned so much about the craft of writing from reading other psychological thrillers and understanding how they were set up. And reading as a writer is very different than reading as a reader. And I kind of lost a little of my reading
enjoyment
as a reader part, because now I can see almost all of the twists coming because I know the tricks. And so I'm like no fun in a movie, and I'm no fun, as I'm reading, I'm like, it's this, And then I would also say imposter syndrome is real. You can do it. But you have to believe you can do it. And that is super easy for me to say and not follow. Because like I was in a different interview, a written interview, and they asked like, when did you know you were a writer? And I was like, I still have days where I'm like, am I?
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Of course you're a writer.
I know.
I'm like, I'm self-published and I'll be like, I'm a writer, but I got published at 10. So I guess I'm okay with that. That's always been my identity.
Yeah, 10 early. 10
yeah, I
good.
knew I wanted to be a writer when I was 7 years old. So
I love that.
I made sure I got that done. Yeah. So at 10, I was like, check.
What?
Reader.
Yeah.
But it was only a poem. So I mean, I don't even know if that really counts.
Not only a poem.
Published is published.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for sharing those bits of advice, especially like the imposter syndrome. Although I think I've only had it once in my life. It was that college professor, and I was like, oh, I'm not a good writer. Oh my God. He could have said I wasn't a writer. I'd have been like, I'll forget you.
Yeah.
You thought about writing. So I wanted to ask where we can find out more information about you, how we can follow your career, and where can we buy this book?
Okay, so all kinds of ways. I have a website. It's www.audreyleeauthor.com, and that has everything. And then all my links, my newsletter, all of that. I'm on social media pretty much everywhere as audreyleeauthor.com. So that's the same. Sorry, at Audrey Lee Author is all of my handles. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I don't know why I'm on TikTok, but I am. I don't even know what goes on TikTok, but I'm there.
We're about to be on TikTok now.
Say that again?
You'll be on TikTok with this interview.
I know. Oh my gosh. I went on there and I told my niece, like, what is happening on TikTok? I don't like, I have no idea. But something that's super cool is in March, I think starting on the 14th, my publisher is doing a giveaway on Goodreads of 5 copies of the ARC. This is the ARC, the advanced reader copy, so it still has a few typos in it. But if anyone's interested in reading it early, you can go on to Goodreads and sign up for a giveaway and hopefully win one. But right now it's available. You can purchase it pre-order it on Amazon and wherever books are sold.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to I'm signing up for the ARC because I want to read it. I love psychological thrillers. I read them slowly though.
That's fine.
Down.
Read as slowly as you want.
I gotta read a little romance in between, be like, calm the heart down, romance it out, come on back. And I don't even like writing romance or really reading it. So
well, I will tell you too, there's a love story in this. Like, to me, it's a love story, but it's also got a lot of thrillery stuff in it. So might be right up your alley.
Oh, so I'm gonna give me another 15 seconds and hope that my camera comes back on because that's the before I attempt to wrap this up. Nope, it's not gonna come back on, so I'm wrapping it up anyway. You can find out everything that your ladies are up to at www.andithoughtLadies.com. Go down to the middle of the page, not the bottom, but the middle of the page, and you can see the charities that we proudly support. We ask that you support them too. Know that monetary donations isn't the only way to give to a charity. You can give your time, or hey, you can even give your resources in the head. One day we were talking to some people and they're like, we really needed that information. I was like, what? Knowledge. And that's free. We thank you in advance for that. And we ask, remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from the from the missing Jade and from me, Wilnona. Oh yeah, thanks for listening. I'm now frozen and trying to stop. This is fun.
You are frozen.